it's all about having an assistant or many assistants to free up the editorial and the well-trained to remove some of those really difficult, not difficult, but the time-consuming pieces.
Hi everyone, for today's episode of A Guy with a Scarf, I have the pleasure to have with me one of the top digital innovator in my network, Matt Stagg. Hi Matt.
Hi.
So I let you introduce yourself, which I'm sure you'll do a better job than I would do.
Yes, and firstly, thanks, Carlo. We've spoken many times, and we have a great relationship. And I've been following your podcasts and videos, and I'm really pleased to be here. So, as I said, Matt Stagg, I'm a media and entertainment innovation specialist, former BT Sport, Warner Brothers Discovery, where I was director of mobile and immersive technologies, amongst other things. And previous to that, I was the head of media and entertainment for EE, the UK's largest mobile service provider.
Yeah, and we have discussed recently in the last 1 year a lot about AI in different forms. Obviously, generative AI took the attention, but AI is many things. I also wrote a book about it. I think there are three areas that I know you have a better view and vision about that I would have. And because of your background, the first one I want to talk about is AI in production, obviously media production. Mm-hmm. What's your view there?
I think this is a very, very interesting part, because when companies and everybody has AI on the agenda, and I think people just think there's an AI for broadcast somewhere, and we're going to plug it in, and it's going to really help in some way. And I think it is such a huge concept that it's one of those things where you sort of say, what can it do? It could do everything, and then you do nothing. The same with lots of very large innovations. So what I like to do is, break it down across the workflow. You don't need an AI end-to-end solution, and it won't be there, and it won't come. And because of the different sorts of AI, so some of the things that actually have been in broadcasting for quite a while are really on the camera production side on site is machine learning. We've heard a lot about automated cameras, and there is a lot of contention in there. People think, that's going to take a cameraman's job away, but there are other ways of looking at it. One of them is the democratization of being able to provide content. A lot of clubs that don't have large media rights, you're never going to take automated cameras to a Champions League match. However, so you will always take 30, 40 cameras there, and you will use the years of training that you have on camera operators. However, there's a lot of lower leagues and grassroots areas where this would be a great opportunity. There is one story in the early days. The automated cameras, the machine learning, thought the linesman's bald head was the ball, which my friends thought was great, because I ran the line for my son's team at the time. But so that's where I would look at machine learning. In the kind of post-production and the editorial, I think that's when we move into opportunities in generative AI.
Big. Because
that's where you're talking. You may look at it for overlaying graphics, overlaying statistics, learning where the customers interact with what looks good, what doesn't. And again, it's all about having an assistant or many assistants to free up the editorial and the well-trained to remove some of those really difficult, not difficult, but the time-consuming pieces. You look at indexing. Nobody actually wants to do that. It is a laborious task when you've got someone doing that who could be learning to be the next producer. So, and the final piece is in play out, understanding where you may need to change codecs, who's looking at what, where, can you have AI in the core network looking at a little bit more about how you move stuff to multicast from unicast, when are people starting to pause and watch non-live, how that affects your network. So you can take each of those pieces and address them in turn.
But one thing that, for example, I would do with a video like this, the first thing I drop it in an AI tool, so I have all the transcript, and I remember you said something interesting, and I want to use it as a clip, and I would do it like that. I don't want to go back and listen to it. It's so time-consuming. And I can imagine in sophisticated editing station, if I have a chat interface or something like that, where I remember a goal, I can just ask for it and not having to look through browsing. I think it's very helpful to create more and better content for editors, I think.
Well, yeah, and also, we always have this different camera angles, and we're looking at more immersive. There's no reason that over time the AI can learn that I always like to see a goal, and I'm always looking for a goal from behind the net. That's it. That's all I want. Well, there's no reason in the live broadcast that you can't really start to tailor content during live broadcasts. I think that's something that isn't talked about and isn't looked at. It's always about using AI to put in recommendations or send you a specific news feed of a club or a player. But I think there's a lot we can do to look at how we can integrate AI into the on-screen live experience and personalization.
No, absolutely. And I understand every time you touch anything in broadcast, not because broadcast is a conservative environment, which it could be, but it's also very stable for many years and it works. We are used, I am somehow, even if I'm very old, a digital native. Sorry, I repeat that. I have to say, someone told me, don't say you're old. I am somehow a digital native in that sense. And I'm used to very complex workflow that not always work 100%, right? But every time you touch something in broadcast, you're putting at risk something that is working day by day in 10,000 places every day. So you need to be extremely careful when you change there, I guess.
100%. And that's not just, we all know if you go off air during, a match, that's it. That's your reputation gone almost, or certainly damaged. But we still need to look at the human element in all of this, and also the skills gap. I don't see AI taking anybody's job. What I do see is someone who knows about AI taking someone's job who doesn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. And another area that you talked to me about, and I was a bit, I don't want to say surprised, but I didn't have a lot of insights myself, was AI in sustainability. What's the relationship? What's the advantage or the potential opportunities there?
Yeah, I think that there's a number of interesting pieces. So that there's a lot of potential to use AI. I don't know how much it's being looked at. But for instance, I know that Sky are using AI to fine-tune the power and cooling on certain areas where it's being used, not being used, but to be able to monitor that. I think certainly analytics, we can see using artificial intelligence, machine learning, to be able to understand the carbon footprint of a remote production versus on-site. We understand now that remote production for sustainability is really good, but are there different ways we can do it by looking at analytics? Cloud infrastructure, again, there's different thoughts on this. A lot of people say that the CPUs and GPUs needed for cloud production are also add an impact because you're putting large data centers. But actually, where can we use AI to understand that, to understand the differences between remote production, on-site, and it's very difficult, and I've worked in this, trying to mark out the actual carbon footprint of a broadcast or a filming. And we can use that to get the information to make informed decisions, not necessarily using AI to do everything for us and make it better, but it will allow us to make informed decisions by taking all of those data points, overlaying them on an opportunity, and perhaps that can help us make the choice between full remote, cloud production, because I think there is a massive gap in knowledge of the sustainability and the carbon footprint of different types of broadcasting production and play out.
And I mean, just by observing, every time you start to do this kind of evaluation, they're extremely complex. It's like when you evaluate project from the client or vendor side, the total cost of ownership. You really need to go outside of what you know to really understand the footprint. That's the sophistication, where the amount of data, as you enlarge the field of view, the amount of data is so big that AI, machine learning, is possibly the only way to get, some significant information around it.
Yes, because you're going to, and again, this comes back to, you've got somebody in your company who's looking at sustainability. That might be one or two or department, depends on the size of your organization. Well, do you want all of them going down looking at the power and cooling of a specific device in the network that they've had? What is that? Then adding it to other stuff, then comparing it, when you can have 1,000 assistants by getting AI to do that. It's not just doing the heavy loading. It's also doing the stuff that people really find complex and laborious. If you can keep people to use their skills in sustainability and understanding impacts without having to use a spreadsheet to add up all of the carbon footprint and then try and overlay, when that could come out in seconds and allow you to look at how you use that information in an informed way, using human intelligence to be able to make better informed decisions around sustainability.
But that seems like a pattern of, very often, I don't want to use words that are too big maybe for this, but future of work. I think this is what happened to me. This is what I'm doing now. It's using these extra human insights and things you accumulated through the years, and then use whatever assistant you can to perform certain tasks.
And you always need human intelligence there on any of these. I've had discussions with journalists, and they say we may get an intern or somebody that we're training up to pull together an article, but the editor won't send that out unless he's read it. That's exactly what we're doing here. Yeah. But actually, what you can say there is, you can then move that on a step where you've got lots and lots of interns and researchers doing that. So the human gets to do some of that and up skills. And, we have a massive skills gap. So we actually need to get the human intelligence, up the career progression to manage that skills gap. And I think that's a really interesting point that it doesn't get talked about when we're talking about, we have in our industry, we do have a lot of people nearing retirement, and we don't have enough people coming in.
And the other area that when we discuss was fascinating to me is, you're thinking for one of the big scary monster apart from churn, that is piracy. So anti-piracy with AI. You had some ideas there.
Interestingly, you mentioned churn there, and piracy is one of the main drivers of churn and lack of acquisition, because if people can get it somewhere else for free, then they tend to do that. So I've been looking at this and doing a lot of research and analysis, and I think there are lots of ways that AI can help in this. And again, it goes back to and this one is really not doing some of that laborious search tasks and finding out information on what's happening, But I think so one of the areas I really think this could help is many of the drives to piracy sites and illegal streams come through social media. And that's a really great opportunity to be able to, trawl through social media in a way that, 100 humans could not do. And then to be able to look at that, to make decisions on, informing how you can block sites, having that relationship through APIs, perhaps with network operators, and work together to be able to take these down a lot quicker than you could before. One of the other things that I found really interesting when I started to formulate some of my thinking around there is, can broadcasters use some of the data that it gets through this kind of analysis to set pricing models? Can you say, actually, who's looking at this? What are they looking at? For a lot of when people are interviewed about this, and maybe they're watching illegal streams, is actually access to things that they don't have. A perfect example in the UK is we have a 3 o'clock blackout by the FA, so we cannot watch 3 o'clock games, and that is why people will go and watch them. So it's not necessarily always a monetization and a commercial impact, and that's quite often what happens, across the piracy. People want early access to watch something when they can watch something. So understanding a bit more about that, we'll see. And it really comes down to analysis, and this is where we can probably start to get one up on pirates. We have to remember that people providing pirated sites also will have access to AI. What we don't want to do is what we have now, which is, that whole whack-a-mole. Something's come up here, we'll shut that down, it's come over here. So combining artificial intelligence, freeing up human intelligence, that gives us a really, really strong armory to be able to do more about this. Because at the moment, there just aren't the people. There aren't the people to be able to do everything. So I think there's some really good opportunities. As I said, using artificial intelligence combined with the human intelligence gives us a much better chance to try and combat this online piracy.
But on that, I have to say, from my experience, the moment you start thinking, even if maybe you don't want to call it piracy, extreme password sharing, you need AI to decide, okay, is Matt really sharing his password with someone that he shouldn't or not? It's not just, analyzing the analytics and deciding with a simple engine. On the other end, the fact that the channels on which piracy happens is increasing. I was on researching before the Super Bowl for articles on LinkedIn that I could use to create my own. And I end up in, LinkedIn search is not great, but I ended up in a lot of messages of illegal streaming on LinkedIn, which was like, wow, the first time I saw something like that. You obviously know Twitter, et cetera, is, but LinkedIn, which is, whoa.
Now,
so, it is a problem.
It just shows the prevalence.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about is, as you had immersive in your the role title, can we not talk about Vision Pro, obviously spatial computing, Quest trying to respond with Zuckerberg doing a video like this almost. So what's your? I know you spend a lot of time on this even before this latest evolution. So tell me a bit what you see happening at the moment.
So I always go back. So my vision for years on Immersive is still being able, to have a live stream of the football match or sports match, whatever, and then to be able to look down and have a volumetric view of the game. I've wanted to do something like that ever since I saw Hollow Chess in Star Wars. That is a personal piece of me, and we have done a lot of that, and we've done a lot of demos using augmented reality glasses with when I was at BT Sport, working together with BT Research and Development, and the experience is great. It's expensive, to do. And in order for this to take off fundamentally, and this is the same with many other things across, as I said, I've worked in media and entertainment for mobile, is density of devices. If we don't have a large amount, so if I take the fact that I'm an operator, a broadcaster, sorry. So we look at, great, we can do this. We can use artificial intelligence now to not have to have, millions of pounds worth of cameras to create volumetric images and the GPUs that uses. So we can take it and we could use AI to make a volumetric capture of the game in real time, and that will come. But unless there's enough people who are subscribed to your service that have a VR or AR device, to make it worthwhile, that investment is meaning that it's going to be a long time coming. We know that you could do it with standard devices, so you can have a view. Perhaps you're watching the TV and you can have a look and maybe look at a replay in volumetric through your phone. But that's not a good experience, and you obviously can't watch a match like that. So I think spatial computing is great. I think it will stay as a spatial computing device where you will be watching large screens of your favorite content, and that's great. You can put a Vision Pro or an Oculus on, and you can make your the biggest TV you've got, and that's great. I watched a lot of when we were doing a lot of trials. I watched a lot of the Champions League games using Unreal AR glasses, but just actually watching the TV because it's a great experience. In terms of the very, very deeply immersive, I think that will be a slow burner just because of the cost in CPU and GPU processing time. To be able to do that means that, yes, you'll see a lot of demos, and I think you've probably seen a lot on LinkedIn, but to make a commercially viable solution or application as a content provider, I don't think we're going to see a lot more than being able to watch TV in a headset.
And also, especially here in Europe, being football the sport number one, that's a more difficult sport to capture than obviously basketball. I think if you're in basketball, maybe we're okay. Still the issue of the adoption, etc. But you may be closer to do something that is radically improving the experience. Because one of the things I also, and I don't know what you think about it, the definition of immersive, very often we just think, okay, I have a whatever Vision Pro on my face. I have learned that immersive, but by experiencing, it has a lot to do with audio. Audio is crucial.
Yes.
It has. To be honest, if you have a big screen, the camera with the cinematic cameras. To me, that gives me a huge sense of being immersed, be really there when they enter the pitch. They obviously can use it only in certain areas. I think immersive is also coming from different techniques more than technology sometimes. So it's creating this immersive experience, and it's not only the mixed reality thing, I guess.
Then I always use this when we talked about immersive experience within stadiums. And everyone went, in a stadium, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything apart from watch the match and soak up the atmosphere. But, immersive isn't new. My dad used to take a radio in ear so we could have the commentary. That is immersive. I think one other thing we talked about using spatial computing to watch a screen. Well, actually, you can take that one step forward. And this is something that I think we will see way before we see volumetric. On a screen, a broadcaster only has a certain amount of statistics he can add to that. It's source space. When you have a spatial compute on when you're watching, you have your whole room. I can have the main screen there. I can have statistics there. I can have replays there. I can have the other match then watching over there, and I turn around and the sound changes to there. So we will see better experiences that aren't particularly expensive to make, because you already have that as a broadcaster. You're not just able to put that on, clearly for a lack of space on your television. So I think that would be something we'll see early that will really drive immersive.
Yeah, that's the only thing that sometimes I'm a bit unhappy is that the when they do it, they just put screens. Like when you put VR in a broadcast, they do this amazing animation, and then the statistic is a black rectangle with some numbers. So say, well, okay, you have a new version of Photoshop, so whatever it is. No, you use the gimmicks, and then on the thing that really matters, you don't. And I was thinking, okay, I don't want more screens around my screen. I want maybe statistics for what they are. If it's a comparison, so maybe there's a lot of creativity. It's a new field. I mean, I was thinking as I mentioned this, I was thinking at the Sphere in Vegas, right? Imagine how it is to produce a show in something like that. You really need to change your creativity knobs, I think, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same.
But this is where, I always take Formula One or MotoGP as an example of this, it's very difficult. A broadcaster has to take, a fine line between being able to provide the information that a super fan wants. They want tire pressures. They want absolutely everything. To the person who just wants to watch, the cars going around. So that's where we can, potentially use AI to be able to provide the information that we know those fans have. Because it really comes down to personalization, especially when you have more room to do more things. What you don't want to do, it needs to be tailored to people, and I think that's the key. And that's where even more so AI needs to come in to provide personalization when you have a bigger opportunity to provide more information.
I think, to be honest, and I realized it as you were speaking, in those experiences, say with the Vision Pro, personalization is a given. It's obvious that I'm watching something, I will have something to add. It's not like a broadcast, traditional broadcast, impossible, right? Digital, in theory, it should have been possible, but no, maybe there was no business case. Not many people really did it. We had the technology in 2012, then. So, but it didn't happen. Maybe now that it's obvious that you have more space, people will be forced to provide personalization. Otherwise, I mean, I just watch it on an iPad. Why should I put
exactly that? And that leads to, one of the elephants in the room whenever we talk about media and entertainment on headsets, is especially live sports. They're a social experience. You very rare or few people want to watch it on their own. There's obviously, if you're going out, you're not wearing a headset. But if I've got everybody round, do I want to have a headset on to provide, I don't know, something else for me, and my mates haven't got it, and they're all chatting and watching the football, and I'm sat there on my own going, oh, this is great. I've got
not very popular. Not very popular.
I don't care. You might have extra statistics, but you didn't notice we just handed all the beers out. Yeah, totally. So one last thing I wanted to see with you is more about the innovation as methodology, or very often I've seen lately that innovation is kind of a practice, right? Which I think it is. So I remember I was lucky to intercept different pioneering times, the web, mobile, streaming, etc. And innovation, also because of our business, was an urgency. So they had to stop us to be innovative, because that was, you go to a client after a season, can you go there with the same stuff? No. So it's obvious that you have to innovate, at least in our space. You've been with many teams, etc. What's your view on how you make innovation happen, especially in big companies? It's a very difficult one, because you take you take any company. There is a window. There's an envelope of investment. Where do you put that? Do you put that in as you're a broadcaster in creating better entertainment? more games, show more games? Or do you look at how you can innovate to show your premium content and make it look better? I think one of the, it's really an education piece. I think innovation suffers, when there's budgetary constraints and they say, okay, well, we need to keep on air and we think we can get more people if we do this. Or there's someone looking at innovation who thinks they can, in 2 years' time, they can have the next best thing. And the CFO has to make a decision on that. But I think sometimes it can be quite narrow thinking, because you can either be a leader and pick and get that next thing. And we've seen that, especially around, HD and UHD. Or you can play catch up. And playing catch up, sometimes, if you've missed something because you haven't put the money into innovation and then your competitors do, playing catch up can be expensive, and add technical complexity, fragmentation, which all drives more money. And, some of these things are intangible with innovation, because it's very difficult to understand the impact that your innovations are making, because acquisition and churn is very difficult to tell how that's down to innovation, but you cannot stay still. I think it's very complex, to be able to say the value of innovation. And I think as technical people in the media and entertainment industry, we need to be able to formulate that argument better than we probably do.
Yeah, maybe it's also on our side. So on one end, it's being short term to being long term, but maybe in a moment where short term is more important sometimes, because the business is maturing, etc., and everybody needs to be measured. Maybe innovation, to be honest, like direct to consumer marketing, is not super easy to to measure sometimes, and certain decisions have to be better, explained to management or to the CFO, and maybe we have to learn, I guess.
Yeah, and you don't always have to be first. There are many opportunities to be second and better. That's it. And when do you pull out these innovations? And again, you have to look across the whole ecosystem. Yes, you can invest lots, and people are looking at trials of 8K and all of that. Yes, it will look amazing, but the investment always comes down to the end devices. How many people have 8K that are signed up, that watch football at home? And getting those insights, interestingly, is where you can start to use AI. We came back to this looking at earlier around what people do. And I think the insight you get can really help in making innovation decisions.
And I think I always use the term innovation radar. It's important you have a radar on the market or the technology, depending on, or even on the content format. So innovation has many shapes. It's not only technology, because that's the way you intercept. Maybe as a first second, and you can really understand when to change or pivot, transform your business.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's innovation in across. There's innovation in rights acquisitions. There's innovation in pricing models. So I think we have to take innovation as a whole thing, and not just we want to do something because we really like playing with technology. And the whole thing of the allowing a culture of failure, especially in innovation, is very important. What you want to be able to do is someone to be confidently say, we had a look at this and it wasn't very good. And I know we've spent X amount of money looking at it, but we cannot continue down this road spending more just because someone's frightened to say this isn't very good.
Yeah. No, that's, absolutely. So on this very wise note, thank you, Matt, for talking with me, and it was fascinating discussion. I hope to meet soon at some events.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you.
Ciao.